Okay, so I'm going to take you through your Certificate in Digital Applications Unit 1 Developing Web Products exam, which you should be sitting on May the 15th at 9 AM. So as you enter the room, you'll have a printed copy of the exam paper that looks something like this. And you will also be logged onto a computer with the software that you will need to complete the exam. So you'll have Dreamweaver in order to make the website itself, Fireworks and Photoshop for image editing, Microsoft Word to do the evaluation, and Google Chrome so you can test your website as you're creating it. So the first thing you need to do is go down and read the client brief, understand what kind of website you're making for what purpose. So I'm using the 4Toonz radio example from a few years ago, which is a community radio station. And the requirements for this site are to make 5 pages, so it will always be 5 pages, whatever exam, whatever year you're doing. 3 main pages and then 2 further pages. In this example, it's a programs page which links to the 2 further pages of the lunch break and home time. So in your candidate area, you will have something inside computer that says CiDA exam and then a number. So although my computer shows E, your drive letter will say N, and it will be the main thing on the account that you're logged into. So inside there is where you'll find the assets. These are the files that you're expected to use in order to make the website. So there's a folder of images, and then there's also a text file, well, an info.rtf file that contains all the information that you're required to put on your website. So the first thing that you need to do is we're going to start off by making this home page. So we're going to load up Dreamweaver. And this is perhaps the most important thing you have to remember. You must define your site first and foremost. Okay, so you must click Site at the top, go to New Site, and then I'm going to type in CiDA 4Toonz radio. It doesn't really matter what you put in here. And I must point to where that drive was that had the assets folder in. So I'm going to click here to the drive, and so I can see the assets folder. I'm going to say, yep, this is where the website files are going to be. Okay, so now I can see down here that I have access to all the assets. So the next step is to just make a blank HTML page, and I'm going to save this straight away, and I'm going to call it index.html. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the exam brief. I'm going to have a look and see what it wants me to do. It's always going to ask you to make a banner. But let's just go quickly through some of these other requirements that are, again, pretty much the same each year. Okay, so the website must be these dimensions. 1024 pixels wide and 768 pixels high. You must always have to have a lively color scheme. As I've said, you use the images from the assets folder, the text from the info.rtf file, accessibility features for visual impaired users, so you can't have bold striking colours where you can't read the text, and you must, most importantly, have a consistent design. So the way we're going to make the consistent design is we are going to finish the home page first before we start making any of the other pages. That is another really important thing. So the first thing it wants me to do is make this banner. Okay, so it says the banner should extend the full width of the page. You know by now that the width of the page has to be 1024 pixels. Okay, so I'm going to load up Photoshop. I'm going to choose to make a new canvas, and it's going to be this many pixels wide, so make sure you've got pixels selected. So 1024, and then I'm going to choose the height is a good size for a banner, so around about 200. Okay? So once I've got my canvas open, I can start adding in some text that says 4Toonz radio. I'm going to have to make it quite big as well. Will it let me? Oh, it will let me make it bigger, which is good. So I don't want it too big, because remember, what it says on the brief is that we must also have the station logo on there. So I'm going to have my text a little bit smaller than this, and I'm going to choose a font that represents the kind of topic of the website, which is a community radio station. So I'm going to choose a font here that I think fits. That one's a little bit too cartoonish. Okay, I like this one. Just something that looks good, and tweak it so you've got it how you want it. Okay, so at this point in time I'm going to choose a colour, I think. So I'm going to use kind of bluey colour, quite a light blue. And I'm also going to add some effects. So I'm just selecting the text layer, going to blending options, and I'm going to choose, first of all, a stroke, and I'm going to set that to quite a light blue. So you see I've just added a little outline around it. And then I'm going to choose an outer glow, make it quite a dark thing. Change this to hard light. Okay, quite like that. So I never suggest spending too long on the banner activity. So remember, you only have 2.5 hours to do the whole exam. Don't dwell too long on the banner. So the next thing I'm going to do now is just to get the logo image. So I can see here I've got it. So I've just gone into the candidate area, gone into images. I've found the logo. So it's always typically going to be called logo. And I can see down here that it's got the logo for the radio station. So I'm just going to drag it from Windows File Explorer, drop it onto Photoshop, and it will allow me to place it straight into the document. Okay? I'm just going to press place, and I'm going to move it along. And it's nice and easy. It doesn't even have a background, so I don't have to really do any further image editing. I'm just going to move this a little bit to the side. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller, just to make it kind of fit nicely. And move it on, and then I'm going to be happy with that as my banner. Okay, so I'm going to choose Save for Web and Devices, as always, and I'm going to change it to a PNG. I'm going to use this PNG 8 one. And you can see down here the file size is 25k, which is nice. And I'm going to save it, and I need to find my candidate area, so it's really important that you always save in your website folder. So I'm going to find images, and I'm going to call this banner. Okay? So if you save files outside of your website folder, when it comes to submitting your work for the exam, you will lose marks because those things will just not appear. Alright, so now I'm finding my assets. Sometimes you might have to do refresh local files, so just right click there. But I'm going to find the banner, and I'm going to drop it in. Oops, I just accidentally opened it. So it's chosen to open it in Fireworks this time, because Fireworks is the default program. But I need to drag and drop it in. Okay, so I've just dragged it into my Dreamweaver HTML page. I must put the alternative text here. So this is something, banner for 4Toonz. So this should show a description of what the image is. And this is something that is used for visually impaired users. So if you do this when you put your images onto your website, you are meeting this criteria to include accessibility features for visually impaired users. So you get marks for doing this. So it's really important that you remember. Okay, so my banner is now on my page. I can go back to the brief. So there's another thing I need to do here. So which should link to www.4toonzradio.co.uk. So what that's saying to me is that I need to make my banner, when clicked on, go to that page. So because it's an external link, I'm just going to click the link box down here, and I'm going to type in the address, 4toonzradio.co.uk, press enter, and now this will work. Okay? So I'm going to, at this point, change some stylistic elements of my page. So ignoring what's next in the brief, I'm going to go back and think about this lively colour scheme. So I'm going to use page properties, so right click and page properties. And what I want to do here is change the background colour. So just where it says appearance, and I'm going to use a light blue again. I'm going to change the main text colour to a dark blue. I'm going to change the font. So the main text is, I'm going to try CiDA Console. That's a nice font. I'm going to make the text a little bit bigger. So it's going to be size 14. And I'm going to hit apply. Okay, so now when I write on the page, I should see that my font has changed. So I might just want to put a little bit of text. Welcome to 4Toonz Radio. I'm going to make it a little bit bigger, I think. And I might change the font again because I've decided I don't like that one. To Trebuchet. Okay, I like that one. So now what I can think about doing is adding in my hyperlinks. So every website must have what's called a navigation bar, and the requirements here, all it says for me to do is a navigation bar linking to the home page, volunteers page, and programs page. So it doesn't specify anything more. I could go about making buttons for the links, but given the time that I've got, I'm just going to do some text-based links. So there's 3 things that need to go in the navigation bar: the home page, the volunteers page, and the programs page. So I'm going to lay them out in the form of a table. So I'm going to go insert table, and I know because there's 3 things, I'm going to use 3 columns, and I want them all to go on 1 row. Okay? And then this needs to stretch the full width of the page, so I'm going to take 1024, and I'm going to give it a border of 2. Okay, doesn't look that good now, but what we're just going to do is we're going to put the things in, and then we're going to test them in a little while. Not running index, so the other ones, the other page. So I need volunteers and programs. Okay, so now I can go about changing these so they fit a little bit better. I might even want them to go over here a bit. Okay, what I need to do now is make these into hyperlinks. So when the user clicks on this home button, they need to be taken back to the home page. So because we've named the home page index.html, that is what we write in this box. So this is a really hard concept, but when I do the volunteers page, you might think, oh, I don't have a page yet. What you need to do is you need to predict what you are going to call each page in your website. Because we haven't got those pages yet, we're finishing the home page in order to have a consistent design. Okay, so I know that when I do make my page, it's going to be called volunteers.html. It's important that you put the .html, else the computer will not know that you mean a website file. And this one is going to be called programs.html. Okay, I want to change the way these links look. So now I'm going to go back into page properties, I'm going to go to links, and I'm going to make the links a bit bigger than the normal text. And I'm going to say that I want the link colour to be a dark blue. And when you hover over the links, it's going to change to this purple colour. I'm going to do a slightly light purple colour. Okay? And I'm going to say only show underline on rollover. So when the user puts their mouse over the link, that is when the button will hover. Okay, so now I'm going to test my web page. So it's all well and good doing this, but if I go to preview in browser, this will allow us to, so if I go to file, preview in browser, and then just hit chrome.exe, or press F12 on the keyboard, it'll allow me to preview my page. So I'm just going to click set as default. It'll allow me to preview what my website looks like so far. So if I click on these buttons now, I'll notice that I get a 404, a web page not found error. That's because I haven't yet made those pages, so don't worry at this stage. All we want is to make sure that the navigation is consistent, and we've got some nice accessibility features of showing where the hyperlinks are. I'm going to do something now, changing my strapline. I don't want it to go up there, so I'm going to move it down here. And on each page, I need to have a title. So I'm going to say home, and then I'm just going to get it to change this to heading 1. And I might at this point change the way. I could actually, I'm not going to do that right now. I'm just going to say home page. Okay. So, back on the brief, does it tell me anything else need to go on the home page? So it says put the image flyer.bmp, which you can find in the images folder, on the home page. So this confused me a little bit because I went and looked for flyer.bmp, but you'll actually find that flyer is actually a PNG file. I'm going to drag this on to the page. I'm just going to put it here for now. And I'm going to write in flyer for 4Toonz radio. And then you'll notice that this is really big. So when I preview the browser, it's actually too big for the page because now it's causing me to scroll. So what I'm going to have to do is deal with that. I'm going to make this image smaller. It's really important when resizing images that you hold shift on the keyboard, and you should only ever use the bottom right anchor. This is to allow us to keep the image in proportion and not skewed. Okay, you will lose marks for distorting images by skewing them or otherwise. Okay, so my flyer is now on the page. So I decided I don't really like the way that some of this stuff looks. I'm going to center align it to make it using the CSS. So I'm just going to click down here and change it to center align. And then I'm going to go back to HTML. So now when I look at my web page, I think it looks a lot more neater. I'm even going to center align everything, I think. So if I look at it now. Just making a few adjustments. So remember that you must be previewing this at 1024 pixels. So when I actually look at my site, it'll only be this big, because this is a 1024 browser window now. Okay, so the next step, so I've got the flyer on, I've done that, so I've got my navigation bar, and now I need to take note about what it wants me to keep to when doing images. So it wants all the images to be in PNG format, and it wants each individual image to be less than 300 kilobytes. Dreamweaver allows me to see this, so I can see what file format each image is, and I can see how much each image is, how big each image is in terms of size. Okay, so I can see this one, cds.png. I'm not even going to think about using this because it's nearly 900 kilobytes. This drums image is almost 800 kilobytes. It's too big for a website, so I can only use ones that are less than 300 KB. So I've got flyer in, which is fine. And my next step, I think, is to think about making the next page. Just checking through quickly. It's not telling me to put anything else on the home page, I don't think. Okay. So at this point, I can be happy with the design of my home page, and I can think now about duplicating this to make my other pages. One thing I might do just quickly is just to get some text from the info page. Which of this text is most fitting for the home page? I would suggest this bit, so this information about 4Toonz radio. I'm going to just put that here. And I'm going to get rid of that one. I'm going to make sure that this is a heading. Okay. So I'm previewing it again, and it's still looking good. Got a little bit of scrolling now, so I'm just going to make this a little bit smaller. But at this point, I'm happy. Okay. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to File, Save As, and I'm going to make a copy of my home page for each of my other pages. So I know at this point that my 5 pages that I need for my website will be home, which is index.html, got volunteers.html, programs.html, lunchbreak.html, and hometime.html. So I'm now going to make a copy of index.html for each of those. So volunteers.html, save as again, programs.html, go to save as again, lunch, what's it called? lunchbreak.html, and hometime.html. I'm going to click through my tabs now, so it's really good. Ooh, I've noticed a little mistake then. I've written programs instead of programs. So what I'm going to do to change this, I'm going to close it. I'm going to go down here. I'm going to refresh my files. I can see my website files. And I'm just going to click and click to rename and make sure that that is spelt correctly. The reason being, if you misspell your file names, your links will not work. You will lose marks in the exam. Okay? I'm going to open it up. It's really good to have all of your web pages open at once. You can see at the moment, they're all just copies of the home page, so they all look the same. I can go back to testing my web page on my website in Chrome, and I can click the links. The links now work. You can see the file name changing at the top, but every file is just the same. Every web page is just the same. Alright, so I'm going to start with whatever it mentions next, which is the programs page. Okay, so it asks me at this point to include some thumbnails. On the programs page, use appropriate images or cropped images from the images folder to create links to lunch break and home time. So a thumbnail is a small image used to represent something, and in this case it's to represent a link. So I'm going to go to my programs page, and I'm going to change this to programs. I'm going to go back to the info file and find what should be on the programs. That seems to be about volunteers. I'm going to take this little bit and I'm just going to put that there. At this point I know there's two things that I want to show, so I'm going to delete the flyer, it's not needed. So I'm going to use another table for this now. In fact, I'm not going to use another table, I'm going to use something else. I'm going to use insert an absolute position div. So these aren't really used in real websites, but for the sake of this exam, it's kind of like a text box, so it's something that's really easy to organise content with. So I'm going to make two of these, one for each of my links. I'm going to go click AP div tag. Alright, at this point in time I need to now find two images in order to make my hyperlink. So one must be for the lunch break page and one must be for the home time page. So if I can find the lunch break page, this is what's going to show, I presume it's going to show one of the radio shows. So I can find an image that represents what that's all going to be about. So if I just double click, it will open them in Fireworks, it will allow me to see them. And remember the rules, so they must be PNGs and they must be less than 300 kilobytes. So I think the mic one's probably a safe bet. Okay, so that's a good one. And let's have a look at presenter 2. That's also probably a good bet. Let's check sign. That's probably not appropriate for what I'm trying to do. So it's all about picking the right content for the right job. So I'm going to get the mic image and drag it into the box. And here I'm going to go click, click. So the microphone. So this is the accessibility features for visually impaired users. Click on the microphone. Click the microphone to go to listen to the home time show. Okay, I'm going to make this small enough to be a thumbnail to fit in the box. And then I'm going to use the other one here. I'm going to say click on the DJ to listen to the lunch hour. Okay, I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. What I'm going to do here is to help my user understand how to use my website, so to improve the user experience, I'm going to put some text below each thumbnail, just so they understand what they have to do. So click the image above to go to the home time page. And I'm going to do it here. Click the image above to go to the lunch hour page. Oops, I've done those the wrong way around. Hold on. Home time and lunch hour. Okay, now what I simply need to do is to make these into hyperlinks. So just like an image, you must click the thing you're wanting to link and then find the link box. So down here where it says link, and now I'm going to think, what is the name of the page that I want to link this to? So I'm linking to the home time page, so I need to write home time, and the next bit is .html, so it must understand that it's a web page that you're linking it to, otherwise it will try and open a file or do some weird stuff. Okay, so constantly I'm pressing Ctrl and S on the keyboard or going to File, Save. Make sure you save your progress as you go along. So I'm going to do the same link here. This is going to be lunch break.html. So is it lunch hour or lunch break? Let's change that to lunch break. Click on the DJ to go to the lunch break. Problem is, in the exam paper, they talk about different things. Alright, so that's the programs page done. Just to show you that it works, I'm going to press F12, I'm going to load it, and then what we've got here is if I click on this, it's going to look like it's going back to the home page, but it's actually going to the lunch break page. The same with this one, it's going to the home time page. The fact is that the website isn't finished yet, so you just still won't see those changes. Okay, so now what I'm on is the next bit. So edit the image schedule.png, which can be found in the images folder, to draw attention to the two programs featured on the microsite. Okay, so on the website, the two programs are the lunch break program and the home time program. So let's have a look now. Let's open up the schedule.png image, and we're going to do open with Photoshop. Oh, okay, so this lists all of the different shows that the radio show has. Okay, so it wants you to draw attention to the two ones we're making web pages for, which is home time and lunch hour. Okay, so it wants you to, in some way, kind of make those look to stand out. So what does it say? It says it wants you to draw attention to them. Okay, so what I'm going to do for this is I'm going to select the colour from the background using the eyedropper tool. So I've got that nice blue colour, and I'm going to get a paintbrush tool, and I'm going to colour over. What I'm going to do is get a little bit of a bigger paintbrush tool. I'm going to cover over what has been written. It's going to do the same thing again. I mean, this doesn't look perfect given that the background is a gradient. Okay, so I'm going to cover those up. I might just do that one a little bit again. I'm just getting the eyedropper tool to select the colour, getting the paintbrush tool to paint over. Okay, I'm happy with that. Now I'm happy with that. So now I'm going to get the text tool, and I'm going to write now. I'm going to write in a way that makes these two radio programs stand out. Okay, so this one was the lunch hour. I need to remember to change my font colour, of course. So I'm going to write this, the lunch hour. And my other one is going to be home time. Might be worth making the font a little bit bigger at this point. And again, doing the same thing with that one. Got to make it consistent. And now I'm going to go about making these stand out. So remember, the whole idea of doing this little part of the activity is to make these two things stand out. So again, I'm going to go to blending options. I'm going to use a stroke, just a small stroke. And I'm going to use the outer glow again. This time I'm going to set it to, I don't know, pink. Set it to hard light. And do something to make it stand out. Once I've done one, it's really easy. If I right click and just go to copy layer style, I can then right click the other one and just go to paste layer style. I'm going to zoom out to check how this looks. And I'm happy with that. I think now what we've done is we've made those two radio shows stand out. So I'm going to go to File, Save for Web and Devices again. Still using a PNG. And I'm not going to overwrite what I've already done. What was already there. I'm going to make a copy and call it schedule edit.png. Okay? So now when I go back into Dreamweaver, I can right click and go to refresh local files, and my new version of the schedule file will be there. So this belongs on, this needs to go on the programs page. Okay? So as well as these two things, I need to have the schedule. So I'm going to move them slightly. Remember, we can go as big as the banner stretches along the top, as long as nothing goes bigger than 1024 pixels. I'm going to put in another layout object, an AP div again. I'm going to make it fit in the middle. And I'm going to drop the schedule.edit file in. So I'm going to put the alternate text is schedule for 4Toonz radio. Click. Ooh, it's a little bit bigger than I like, so I'm going to make this a little smaller, I think. And I'm going to move this over here. So let's just have a look how that looks. I'm not happy with that. I think both of the links should go on one side rather than this being in the middle. So I'm now going to move this over here. And put this down here. Check it again. I'm happy with that. Just move this a bit further down. Okay, so I've got the schedule that's been edited and I've got 2 thumbnail links, which could be a little bit smaller. Let me just change that. So remember, hold shift as you resize the images. The reason I'm making them smaller is they're not really thumbnails unless they're quite small images. Let's just have a look again. Much better. Okay, so now I can set about doing my next page, which is, let me see, so 2 audio files are included within the assets folder and must be embedded on the relevant pages. They should only play on click. Okay, so that's quite a tricky little thing to do. So if we go to the home time page, now at this point we can go listen to the home time show and delete everything here. And at this point what we need to put in is a sound object. So to do this, what we're going to do is we're going to drag the sound object in, and this is going to be the home time. Just drag it in, hometime.mp3, and there you go. And I'm going to change the text so it says click here to listen. Okay. To go with this page, so I'm just going to prove to you that it works, F12, and then if I click on it,
4 till 5, every weekday,
it plays the sound in the browser. Okay? So if I go back to this page, I'm just going to choose a nice image to go with this. Remember, it must be under 300, and it must be a PNG file. So we're running out of choices here. So look, so maybe the camera picture, so camera. Don't know how appropriate that is, so let's try another one. So the field recorder. Okay, that's a good one. Alright, so now I need to do the same for the lunch break page. So I'm going to change this to listen to the lunch break show. I'm going to get everything from here. And I'm going to find the MP3 file again, so we know the audio file. So see here it says lunch hour, but I know what it means. So I'm going to say click to listen. Is that what I said there? Click here to listen. And again, I'm going to find an image to go with this. So in the assets folder, I'm going to take the headphones. Type in the alt text. That's a good one. I like that. So I'm just going to preview it. Looks good, I think. Programs page, volunteers page. Okay, so what's next? So I've done this. I've done the audio stings. Okay, so strapline. Using an H4 tag, add the following strapline to the volunteers page. 4Toonz radio is for the whole community. What that basically means is get this text. So I'm just going to copy and paste it onto the volunteers page. Okay, so I'm going to change this so it says volunteers. I'm going to delete everything else, and I'm just going to paste that text that I just found. It then gives me some instructions. So using an H4 tag, you are not expected to edit the code. Okay, I don't want you to do that because Dreamweaver has all this built-in functionality. Okay, so just where it says format, rather than heading 1 as we used before, we're going to use heading 4, which is H4. You might not notice a difference, but you will see when you click it that is now changed to heading 4. It then says the colour must be 0099cc. So what that is called a hexadecimal code. So all colours in web design are represented by funny numbers that also have letters in. So it wants us to go to page properties, and then we're going to go to where it says links and find, sorry, not links, headings, and find heading 4, and it's going to ask us to change the colour to what it just said. So I'm going to paste it in there, 0099cc, and it notices that that is a blue colour here. So I'm going to click apply. Ooh, okay, so I've got some issues with contrast at this point. Okay? So we don't want to forgo the whole idea of accessibility and allowing visually impaired users to use the site. So what I'm going to do this is I'm going to put this little thing in a layout object, and I'm going to say I want it to be a div tag, and I'm going to change the CSS. Ooh, no, I'm not. I can't do that. It won't allow me to do that. Let's have a look. So I'm going to choose a table instead, and it's just going to be a 1 column, 1 row with no border. And where it says background down here, I'm going to change it to a darker colour. Okay, so now when I copy and paste the strapline in there, which should be there. Let me just check the code a second. Okay, so we need it to say H4. So if I go back to this and select what's in there and make sure it's set to H4, it will know what I'm talking about. Inside the table, again, I want to make it so it's center aligned, just so it looks nice. I'm going to preview that, check that it looks okay. I think it's looking good. Remember the browser will look like this because it's a slightly smaller screen than my screen. Okay, so on the volunteers page we've done the headings, and next it wants us to say from the jobroles.pmp image, which can be found in the images folder, choose one of the job roles to create a graphical link that is in PNG format, shows only a chosen job role, links to an image showing all of the job roles including the volunteers page. So I'm going to find my job roles image, and I'm going to right click, I'm going to go to open with Photoshop. Ooh, doesn't like that. So open with, okay, just going to click open, so I can see down there that it already had the Photoshop logo, so it knows to do this. So what it wants me to do is make a copy of this file that has only one of the job roles. So I'm just going to get the crop tool, I'm going to go like this, and then I'm going to crop it, and I'm going to save it, and I'm going to say this is my job role. So just like before, I don't want to overwrite, this is really important with this one, but I want to make a copy of it. Okay, so job roles edit.png. So now back in Dreamweaver, I should find job roles edit.png, and I'm going to put job roles for more examples. And then I'm going to make a hyperlink. So what it says is the links to an image showing all of the job roles. So I must make my cropped image a link into the image showing all of the job roles. So jobroles.bnp. Okay? So I've just shown that. So I've just dragged it into the link box. When I preview it, now what it's going to do is I click on it, and it's going to go to the full image. So I need to complement this with some other stuff. So I'm going to find some of the relevant information. So members of the community present programs, and perhaps this information. So I'm going to go about getting all of my text now, in fact. The problem with AP divs is if you put text in, you then must move everything down, because AP divs stay where they are regardless of what happens on the page. I'm going to find, so this is obviously some text for the lunch break page, and this is some text for the home time page. So again, just going to get some AP divs to sort out these pages. going to pop that in there. Whoop. And I'm going to pop this in there. And I'm just going to make it so that they're arranged nice and neatly. Something along these lines. So layout object, APDiv again, drop the image in, move it over there for consistency. It's going to go in the same place, and then I'm going to add the text to the left of it. I'm just going to drag and drop the text in. Oops, no I'm not. I'm going to cut and paste the text in. Oh, and the thing's disappeared. Let's go back and make another one. Paste the text in, move it over. Make sure there's no issues like that. Make it bigger if needs be. Okay. Preview it to check that it looks alright. That looks fine to me. So the volunteers page does this, but now I need my text on the volunteers page, which I put on. Okay, so I've noticed down here that I have an email link. So I've done this bit. I'm right at the last criteria now. So include the 3 email links which can be found in the info.rtf file on the appropriate pages. So this is obviously the volunteers email. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to select the email address. I'm going to put in an email link. So all email links start with mail to. Okay? Mail to volunteer at 4toonzradio.co.uk. Okay? So it's going to make it big. And I'm going to write the message here. Click to email. Now what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to copy that and I'm going to put it on the home page, click to email, and I'm going to check, because I thought I saw something different. Okay, so this is not going to be volunteer, this is going to be info. So I'm going to change the text on the page and also change the context of the link. Okay? So I'm going to say mail to info at 4toonzradio.co.uk, press enter, that's good. And then also there's one on the programs page that's going to say click to email the show, and then for the programs page it is studio. In fact I'm not going to say click to email the show, I'm going to copy what it says there because that's what they want you to do. And I'm just going to make sure that finally that this is the final mail to email link. Notice that that's made the page drop down, so I'm just going to go whoop, move these down again, make sure that everything fits. Once you've made a big change like this, test it, check that it looks okay. Still looking fine to me, I think. So I've got the email links, I've got the text from the page, I've used images appropriately, and I've met the criteria. So at this point in time, you then need to go on to doing the final part, which is worth 6 marks, of completing an evaluation of your microsite using the document evaluation.txt. So you're not expected to write pages and pages and pages in a CiDA examination. You just have to write something that shows that you understand what you've been doing. So I've found in my candidate drive, inside the assets folder, there is something called evaluation.talk. Open it up, so it asks you to explain the important design decisions, justify your choices in relation to the client brief, suggest further improvements. So this is your chance to show off some of your subject knowledge. So
Photo 5.
Okay, just something along those lines. You don't have to write loads. Another thing I did for this was include alternate. Just something like that, and then make sure you save, and then you're done. So what I've just been able to do is complete the whole site for you in 50 minutes, 48 minutes and 41 seconds. In the examination, the actual examination, you will have 150 minutes. So I'm confident you'll be able to do this in the time that you've got.